Call this meeting of the Winnebago County Supervisors to order. First thing, hopefully everyone's signed in, followed along that was up on there. If they're not, let either Dia or let us know so everyone gets signed in. Next thing on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Supervisor Powers?
I ask that tonight we begin the meeting with and the new year of the county board by reflecting on statements by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in honor of his birthday, and the invocation will follow the quotes. Quote, "He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to perpetrate it. He who accepts evil without protesting against it is really cooperating with it." End quote. Of all the forms of inequality, injustice in health care is the most shocking and inhumane. End quote. Forgiveness is not an occasional act, it's a constant attitude. And finally, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And now our invocation. Good and gracious Creator, we pray for the hungry and homeless in Winnebago County, especially during this particularly bitter cold. For the people and the firefighters on the West Coast, specifically California. For those impacted by the hurricane on the East Coast, specifically in South Carolina. For those facing blizzard conditions on the Gulf Coast, specifically in Texas and Louisiana. Let us pray for our president and his new administration that he may find a way to care for and to protect the most vulnerable citizens among us. Amen.
Vice Chairman Fari?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of tonight's agenda.
Motion made and second to approve. To approve tonight's adopted agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Carried. At this time, anyone in the public that wishes to speak on anything in Winnebago County underneath the jurisdiction of the county board can come forward at the microphones. You will have 2 minutes to speak. State your name and address and tell us what you'd like to talk about. Is there anyone on Zoom? That part's closed. Pardon? Oh, someone on Teams just put their hand up. State your name and address, please.
Hi, this is Ann Dolan, 617 West 17th Avenue in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I just came home from work and I was watching the news and saw that Waupaca has the vending machines that we have in Winnebago County. And some of the things that are in their machines that I don't believe we have in our machines are COVID tests, and also they have like tick removing kits, which I thought was interesting. But there was a time recently where I was very sick, and I was trying to find a COVID test, and I went on the Winnebago County website to see if I could get a COVID test out of our machines, and apparently we do not have them in there, but Waupaca does. And I'm thinking, if they can we? Just something to think about. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll turn that over to the health department and the county executive, and they can check into that. Tick. Anyone else? Okay. Communication from the county clerk.
Good evening, everyone. We have one petition for a zoning amendment from Daniel Peterson in the town of Nakaimai to change from 8.2B3 to 8.2. It'll be used for a single-family residence and hobby farming. and that will be referred to the Planning and Zoning Committee. Then we have a resolution from Jackson County in regard to its elk damage, and that will be referred to the Legislative Committee.
Reports from committees, commissions, and boards. Call in and we'll try and catch you up on the sides here. Anyone have any reports this evening? Call in. If you push your button to call in, did you push in? Supervisor Nussbaum. Okay. Supervisor Lux.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the Land and Water Conservation meeting, the next Land and Water Conservation meeting, the Fox Wolf Watershed Alliance will be giving a talk about the round goby and why the round goby is bad, I guess. I'm not sure that it's all that bad. I am looking forward to the presentation. But the round goby affects almost every district. And so if you'd like to join us, it's at 9 a.m. on February 3rd is our next land conservation meeting.
Thank you. Supervisor Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next Task Force Rules Committee is on Thursday at 4:30. I would again encourage anyone to join. If you look at the packet for this Thursday, I'm hoping that every supervisor might take an opportunity. Everything that has been discussed so far has been put in resolution form. And so in order to save time when we present to either Judiciary and Public Safety and then ultimately this board, I am hoping supervisors might take the time and see the changes that are being put forward by that task force. And if you have any changes, disagreements, whatever, please email, I guess, really anyone on the committee or myself so that we can get it back on the agenda. Just as a note, and please clarify, Mr. Chairman and Supervisor Stafford, I believe, the task force dissolves in June. And so I am hoping that April 1st, we can make our first presentation to Judiciary and Public Safety in case that gets sent back, so that by the 1st of May, we are bringing it to the board. Thank you.
You are correct. It is June. Supervisor Hancock Cook.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm a member of the Board of Health, and we met last week, and I was particularly interested in a presentation we received from a group called the Community Living Room that I wanted to bring to the attention of the board, because it's a group that has been doing really interesting work in the community, and I'll just read from their thing for us. The Community Living Room is a non-clinical, person-centered environment for people seeking social connection and emotional support. The primary objective of the Community Living Room is to use the concept of connection as a framework for prevention in a no-cost, community-based supportive space. And it's for anyone who's feeling lonely, isolated, feeling grief or strong emotions and needs someone to talk to and connect with. And they have regular hours and regular locations in Outagamie County. And the reason it struck me so much is because as we went through the community health assessment and the community health improvement plan, which are for Winnebago County, you can get copies of both. The community health assessment in particular talks about the epidemic of loneliness that is a public health issue for all of us. And especially as we're trying to make sure that we're maintaining the health of our citizens as best we can. Making any effort to connect people when they are feeling isolated and lonely helps us all. And this program was in Winnebago County last year because they'd received a grant of $50,000 to be able to do that. They had a number of meetings connected through the library and various other entities, but they don't have that grant this year. And they have, the people who do the counseling or who are there to do the listening are trained listeners. So they are paid, which is part of their model, and it's working extremely well in Outagamie County, and it's something I think that we need to consider as our county. How can we help people's mental health who are feeling lonely and isolated and that kind of stuff? So this was a really good presentation. It's something I think maybe we should bring to the full board in the future, because I think it's worthwhile for us to look at how we can fund that kind of thing, because it gets us to a place where we're supporting people who are very, very vulnerable, and we know that that leads to bad outcomes for our citizens.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Vice Chairman Fari?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just an update, we are going to have a legislative committee meeting next Monday on the 27th, 8:30 a.m. at the Coughlin Center. Thank you.
That's all we have. Who? Oh, Supervisor Holt?
Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone. I wanted to ask what is the best place for us to have a discussion around homelessness and some ideas that have been brought to our attention. I believe there have been a number of discussions both in the Faces of Homelessness meetings, but also just amongst ourselves. And I think there's a lot of good energy for it. And I want to make sure that we're using that energy wisely and pointing it in the right direction.
Thank you. All right. At this time, then, we'll go to the county executive's report and appointments. Now, some of the things, just so you know, he might be changing some of the things around so it falls into place, so I wanted to tell you that.
There we go. So the only thing I'm flipping around is switching 1 and 2. So we're going to do the update on long-term planning and then do a preview of financial reporting to committees. I think it segues a little bit better. So that I'd like to thank you all for being here. It is extremely cold out there. I'd like to thank my wife for this wonderful birthday gift. I was going to bring a change of shoes and do the Mr. Rogers song, but I decided against it. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. You want me? All right. So long-term planning, and I think this is going to be a little bit beneficial. It's high-end, and I want to explain a lot of supervisors are new. Not only just the last election, we had 13 new supervisors here. The election before that, we had 18 new supervisors. So for some of you, I wanted to give you a better picture of where we were 4 years ago, how we got to where we are today, and then where I want to get to in the future. So starting with, am I doing the wrong button? It is cold. Oh, there we go. All right, so day one analysis of when I walked into the office. So on day one, my prior experiences, I ran a restaurant for 20 years. I've been in the service industry for a long time. I was the Chamber of Commerce chairman for Oshkosh, as well as on the day-by-day board and the Oshkosh Kids Foundation board, and a founding member of that. So very much community-orientated and out in my community, but not a lot of government experience. On day one, thank you, Mary Ann Miller, I did get a book on ethics and was told that 5917 is my statute in the state statute. And we also met. So a lot of the same concerns I've had for new supervisors of, what's the training and help us define a role. These are all things that we're working on. And you got more than I got on day one. I walked into a staff of one, very nice gentleman. John Fink was his name. He had been in constituent services for 40 years. Very nice man, but that's what I had to figure out. How do we get this organizational to be kind of functional? So there were job vacancies across the board with a lot of looming retirements, a lot of older employees in the county that were, so we had vacancies and it was about to get worse. A lot of silos, a lot of department heads weren't really working together. They weren't talking to each other and they didn't really know what the other ones did. There was a lack of understanding of county conditions. We just kind of winged it. Facilities wasn't even allowed in all the buildings. So it wasn't until I got elected, I believe Mike said that he actually got into parks buildings or airports buildings or highway. It's just not what we did in this county. Lack of transparency, and I don't mean that as a negative turn. It was just hard to follow county government. There were very general agenda items posted on a packet. There wasn't supportive material really available online to see. I'm not saying the discussions were bad. It was just hard to figure out what was coming up. And meetings weren't recorded. So you actually had to go and attend if you wanted to hear what was being discussed. Lack of vision, there wasn't a plan. There was no even a thought of a strategic plan or even our capital improvement plan. What we did was we would just pass every item as it came up throughout the year and not looking at it holistically. So the vision was kind of rough, and lack of meaningful reporting, meaning, I don't think we did a good job of showing you, letting you put your finger on the pulse and seeing the pulse of government, seeing how our spending's going, and kind of getting into detail some of the outcomes that we're seeing. So day one, much like when I would get an SOS call from my restaurant, please help, you come in, you evaluate the situation before you start touching everything. So what do I have as resources to figure out how we get this thing in line? So I adapted the role of my staff at the time. We had added a director of administration position, which wasn't a part of Winnebago County before. And now we got a great director of administration. Thank you, Jamie, for being here. We added administrative assistant because my staff went from what normally would be constituent services into help me get this thing aligned and help me figure that out. So then we had to get somebody back on constituent services. That is now my good friend Annabelle Corelli. And then we added budgets for interns. So interns is how we kind of staffed our very first employee appreciation event that we did. We've had a few of them, Haley, throughout the years. We've had a couple good ones. Right now we're using some of that budget as Reese's position. We sent Reese home because he lives down by Milwaukee and it was cold, so he got tonight off. So thank you for that. To kind of give us a little bit of capacity of how we bring this thing together. But once I had the ability for me to actually do my job and start getting our operations under control, we wanted to go after job vacancies because if you don't have people, you can't do anything. So our first priority was going around the county and hearing how there was a low morale. We had a whole bunch of compression. There was no real hiring range for anybody. So we were kind of stuck. So we did the wage study. It came back and it gave us at least a basis to see where we should be. And then we did the reslotting all positions in the county. So instead of giving everybody $2 or $3 raise, we actually looked and figured out time and place, and we had all these objective formulas. It was a lot of hard work. We did close to 17 listening sessions with employees, and off of that, we had 7 new formulas that we kind of adjusted to make sure that we were being as equal and as equitable as possible through all the different positions in the county. And through that, it went from, I want to say 62% of our employees getting adjustment to like 89 or 90. So it was good to get that feedback. After reslotting, we did revamp the merit pay, which was huge because that's the part that hits that retention piece. People want meaningful movement along the range. Before that, if you've been in the county for 30 years, even if you had a great evaluation, your percentage of raise was so small that sometimes the range would move further than you. So even though you're an exemplary employee, you would move backwards on the range. So it was huge for us to figure that out. And then PTO was a challenge for me coming from the restaurant industry. I never knew what sick time or vacation time was. So it was hard for me to wrap my head around PTO and why we need that, but that's what's really important for the up-and-coming workforce. So if we have to be competitive, whether I like it or not, I had to embrace it because that's where we needed to go. And that we've done, and I can report that our job vacancies are down, and we are having a much easier time recruiting people now, and people seem to be happier staying in their role, especially since they're seeing themselves move along the range as they go. The next one was transparency and tracking. So this board had a rule that we're going to record meetings, and I embraced that. And we need to jump at it and figure out a way so that people can follow government. As much as I appreciate all of you people, it is the citizens at home that also have a right to see what we're doing. Agenda item reports was not something that we did. So let's talk about the background of why we're bringing something forward, highlight what the policy decision is. Is there a fiscal impact in it? What are your options as committee members? And how do we give you that one pager to really button up the policy decision coming to you, but also so the general public understands it too. So maybe if they have feedback, they'll be able to get it to you if they have something that they can read up on what we're doing. Draft resolutions was not a thing when I got here. So we would have discussions at committees, again, not right or wrong, and then Mary Ann would have to write up all the resolutions for the board meeting 2 weeks prior? 3 weeks prior?
I'm sorry.
All the, Mary Ann is, yeah. All the resolutions of the county board, you would write up 2 or 3 weeks before the board meeting?
Before
Roughly.
the new system?
Yes.
No, it could happen within the week before.
The week before. So we would write resolutions the week before it came to the county board, and that's how much supervisors had to read up the language and the general public to follow along. And now we have the civic clerk software. It may be a little cumbersome from what you're used to at the county board level, but as far as citizens be able to follow the process and what we're moving on is fantastic. Also for staff to follow the process, so our finance director can see what's coming down the pipeline no matter what committee it went to. Mary Ann Miller, our legal counsel, can take a look at it no matter what committee it's going through. And our director of administration now can take a look at so we can kind of track. Before that, I remember going to John Fink and saying, John, how do we know when something is coming to committee? He goes, well, when the agenda is posted. Oh, all right. So I think this is much improved. Evaluation is another big thing. So when I would come to my restaurant, you have to be able to evaluate who's behind more. Is it your servers, your bartenders, people at the front door? Is it your pizza line, your Mac line, your delivery drivers? You got to assess your situation, figure out what your priorities are. And what fires are burning, if you would. So priority-based budgeting and evaluation, just to figure out what do we do? Like, what are our programs and what does it cost? We got a management analyst and a financial analyst added to our finance department so we can look at some of the things we're doing in the processes. Actually do things, cost-benefit analysis, things that I thought that we would be doing ahead of time. This is not a controversial thing, but it's something that's really important for us. Is it more expensive or less expensive for us to own our vehicles or lease them? Simple things like that. Where are we spending our money and what is the best possible way forward? Financial analyst was crucial for us getting to some of the Gatsby's standards on leases. In P&F, you saw we had to figure out all these standardized leases and how we're reporting that to our audits. It was a big change. We needed somebody like that to really dig into the numbers to help us figure some of that stuff out. A facilities condition assessment. Director Elder has been asking for that for 20 plus years. What are the shape of our buildings? Are our roofs okay? Are our roofs not okay? What's the plan on our buildings? Before we built Parkview, the old facility, we put a brand new roof on it. Mike, was it 2 years before we tore it down? 4 years. 4 years before we tore down that facility, we put a brand new roof on it. And something like this is going to help us alleviate some mistakes like that in the past. Asset inventory, what do we have? Who has what vehicles? One of the first years I was elected, we had a bad store west side of the county. We had our highway guys out there heave-hoeing on logs with their backs. We had a log grappler in both facilities and parks. We just didn't know. because we had silos. So now we have an asset management. We're working on an asset management system, but at least we've had an inventory to see what we have. And lastly, recodification, which we're going through right now, that hasn't been really updated since 1982. I think when we first started it, it was 12 different PDFs that we had to download and get into one searchable document. So when we're all done, it'll be one searchable document. All of our fee schedules will be in one spot. We will have cross-references to state statutes. It's going to be good.
We've done the housekeeping detail.
Housekeeping detail.
And
Here, you want to come up to the... All right, you're good? All right. Anyways, it was something that was overdue. We are well on the way of making that a searchable document that's easier to understand. Once we get the evaluation done, then we have to figure out roles and responsibilities. And this was really for my office, right? Not so much, I know Andy Phillips came and gave you guys a presentation of roles and responsibilities of the county board, but also roles and responsibilities for the executive office, allowing administration in the door. Mike Elder should have been allowed in all those buildings the entire time. And no offense to Peter Mullen, the past airport director, but I think if our facilities would have been in the old Basler hangar, we probably wouldn't have gotten to the point where we had to spend Spirit dollars to tear it down. You know, that's the maintenance component of it. And that's not, I'm not trying to be an offense to an airport director, but that's what a facilities director is for. That is what an administration is for, defining the function of administration. That means our finance department is supposed to have people report to them so he can help direct the finance. We have a lot of people that touch finance in the county, but they don't report to Director Kaiser, and they should. So that's kind of the roles and responsibility within our organization we have to figure out so we have some synergy here. Restoring budget oversight and policy decisions to the committees and board. Again, that's been a frustration. I don't think we give you numbers in a way it's easier for you to follow along and hold that accountable. And that'll be bullet point 2 now in the presentation, which we're excited to let you know where we're going on that. And then defining operational control. What does that mean? That means that I'm not technically going to get in there and tell Bob how his crew has to lay asphalt, right? But we do have to make sure there's a plan and that we're following that plan to make sure that we're providing all the information we can, and that we're making smart, wise decisions, that we're using finance department to help us do some cost-benefit analysis, that it's a team. So these directors don't have to make those decisions on their own. There's a whole administrative team behind them to help them and assist them in how they run their operations. Planning, next steps. This is where we're going. So I'm going to invite Director Rauch up for a little bit to talk about finalizing a strategic plan. We have a great plan in place in that, where we're going to kind of bring it back to you. We're going to do some workshops, and I need to get this across the finish line because that's what we're going to score our programs off of. Finish the space use master plan. Director Elder is wrapping that up right now. We're going to figure out exactly how much space do we need in the county, how much space maybe are we wasting in the county, and maybe, just maybe, we can find a room that's dedicated to be a county boardroom instead of Julie having to set this all up every third Tuesday of the month. You would appreciate that? I'd appreciate that. The other thing, tie all our master plans together in a cohesive way. We are just finishing up a master plan study for airport. We're just finishing up the comprehensive outdoor plan for our parks department. They don't tie to each other. So how do we do that? So that's one of the things with this master plan. We're figuring out how they all tie to each other. So when we come to the capital improvement plan, we can look long range and see what we can afford, when we can afford it, and have it all planned out so we can smooth that out as best as possible, which allows us to find the trends and deliver fiscal forecasting. That's a huge thing. I mean, you have to be able to see the numbers so you can look at the trends and figure out where we're going to go in the future and where our needs are going to be and how we evolve. How do I give you the best information to make the policy decisions to steer us? It's my job to make sure that we're giving you the best data possible so you can steer us in the right direction. And then we allow priority-based budgeting to define what we do and why we do it. And it's a continual process over and over again. You see needs growing, you have the ability to reallocate to those needs, hopefully at that point we'll be humming as a very efficient, effective, functional government. And then once we get to this part, it's about trust but verify. So we have to do a better job as staff of showing you the data, showing you the budgets to actuals, which we're going to get to, showing you monthly reporting, showing you some of the outcomes of the work that we're doing, continual improvement over and over again. How can we do things better, and allowing PBB, priority-based budgeting, to repeat, adapting to the needs in our county. So we're close. It's taken a long way. It's been a long way from day one when I got here for us to have a finger on the pulse, for us to actually have some vision in the future and starting to figure out how this thing should be. And I'm really proud as staff for the work and dedication it took to get to this. There's been some talk about distrust between the county board and the executive. Maybe that's right, maybe it's wrong. It's not intentional, but I do want us to all understand our roles and try to do this in the right way. And I will ask for resources multiple times until I can get what I need to give you what you need. And it really, sometimes it's a marriage, right? Sometimes I'll sleep on the couch, sometimes you'll sleep on the couch, but we have to be committed to working together to make this work. So when I get to questions, the first question I'm going to kind of put up is to Jamie about our plan for the strategic plan.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, oh my goodness, it is cold outside. I am from the South. Now the South is getting snow today, so okay, well, that's good. I just wanted to clarify some of the things that we've done for the strategic plan to move forward. We had a draft last year, and I know, and that is not to be undone. However, what we've done is we have gone through the steps, the public procurement steps, to look at and hire a consultant to help facilitate the finalization and the moving forward of the strategic plan. One of those things I just really want to reiterate is how important this strategic plan is, not just for priority-based budgeting, but for the entire county to know how we move forward. So our vision and our mission and what results do we want to achieve out of the county, I think that is super important for all of you all to come together and to help guide us. Where do we go and how do we accomplish those? And we have those key performance indicators that will come as a result of your strategic plan that will help us gauge how we're doing and what are our next steps. So that's one of the things. We sent out a proposal, we did a scope, we sent it out, we got it approved. We went through the entire process. My team, and I will reiterate, my team is Director of Finance, Director of Human Resources, Director of IT, Risk Management, Project Management. We also have our Procurement Manager. All of those are a part of that. And we individually evaluated back against the criteria of that, what we sent out, and everybody scored. We finalized that. We chose the company that with the highest score, and now we're to this point to where we will award the contract. And then hopefully, what I want to reiterate here today is it's so extremely important to have all of you buy in. And when I mean buy in, I mean come together to those work sessions. We'll probably establish a couple of different work sessions for everybody to be at. So everybody and every part of this entire county will have a voice, and we'll be able to voice what they believe, the missions and the visions, and we'll all come together. And when it is over, we will have one strategic plan that everybody can move forward with. And I just think that is so extremely important. Now, it is important for priority-based budgeting. Can I keep going? Okay.
Keep going.
So it is important. So the next steps of priority-based budgeting. One, y'all already know all of now the inventory, everything every department does. We did that last year for the budget, and that was fantastic. It's a lot of work, so the departments all really worked hard, and they came together, and I just want to reiterate to you all how much work that is. To sit, it seems like maybe from the outside looking in that it isn't, but to sit and to assess what is it that we do, it is and it can be difficult, especially for those larger departments. So we've got that. Now, we will have that strategic plan in place before we start that scoring for budget process. And so this year, the idea behind it all is for us to have those main results, 10, 6, however many we choose as our top results, and now we've got all of our programs that we can come back and we can score against those results. And what that's going to tell you, it's going to open the eyes to why are we doing what we are doing? And you will be surprised that maybe the answer is, well, because we've always done it that way. But that's not always the best for the county because we've always done it that way. So what are we supposed to do and how are we supposed to move forward? So I just wanted to reiterate that the process is moving forward, is exciting, but I really would appreciate it if all of you could make your best effort to come to those work sessions, because I think you will see that either whether it's 4 hours or 8 hours, and we're going to do our best to schedule it to where it's convenient for everyone, but whether those sessions are, like I said, 4 or 8 hours, I think the effort and the time put into those, the outcome will just far outweigh that.
Right. Questions?
Supervisor Holt?
Okay.
So, as you know, I'm a proponent of strategic planning, priority-based budgeting, and so forth. I hope we'll get those workshops on the schedule sooner rather than later so that we can all plan for them and so that we're not all on vacation or what have you when those things happen. Because I think it's really important that we do participate. That's how we are going to be able to digest and absorb where we want to go and align with one another and hear each other out. Because it's as much as it is us giving you all our input, it's hearing each other that is the most difficult probably when it comes to government. And so I look forward to it. I think it'll be super, and it'll set us up really well for the budget sessions next fall.
I agree very much with that.
Supervisor Bender?
Scheduled as soon as possible. We all have busy schedules, and I truly would like to make every one of them. But it's like they have something in Madison on Thursday. I signed up 6 months ago for a carving class, so I can't go, you know. So it's the further out that we know when they're going to be, the more we'll be available. And I think we are going in the right direction. I want to see us keep working towards that. I think we're doing a good job, and I'm actually starting to feel like we're part of a team, you know. So I think things are going good. We just have to basically make sure that we give enough leeway so that people can fit it in their schedule.
Absolutely. So next Thursday's out. It won't be that fast, yeah.
Supervisor Powers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will admit when you first started talking, I thought, is this the first campaign speech of your new election? But because there was an awful lot, but I saw the progression of where you were going. Another thing that you all talked about was how things had gone in presentations for budget. It's way too early perhaps, but consider those really, really large departments like Human Services. They can't fit everything in that prescribed amount of time to discuss everything they do. It's more divisions and more directors in that department than any other department. So that was one thing I'd like to consider. And just as an aside, you didn't know nothing about PTOs when you were working in restaurants. Does that mean that people showed up at sick on a regular basis and worked in your restaurant?
How many people have worked in a restaurant in
Sick?
here? All right, yeah. How many people worked in a restaurant sick? Yeah, that's the industry. Yeah. It just, but there's something you touched on that I really want to talk about, something I always talk, especially for my team. It's two things. Avoid finality, because our job is never done and it's not about us, right? We have to build a process that's beyond us. That's kind of been my goal. It's never been about me. It's about what does the county executive need? What does that role need? What does the role of the supervisors need? Is the process clear? Is it in place so the next person up can fulfill that mission? It's been one of the, even internally, what is administration? We don't have a lot of processes that are documented or easy to follow, right? Right? And we're working on slowly that we're going to get there. I mean, that's the point of government. It's supposed to be above the person and about the people.
And my final comment is, I think I've been on the county board for 7 or 8 years. This is the first time I can remember being at a board meeting where there was not a sheriff's deputy here. Where is our protection tonight?
He was in
They
back.
were here earlier.
Yep,
They were
he was
here.
in back during public comment, which there wasn't, and then he went back downstairs.
Okay, thank you.
I got you, though.
I just have a question.
Sure.
Vice Chairman Fari and myself, you told us when you guys started this, you were
Yep.
going to let us know anything, and every time something went on, you were going to invite us in. We were invited in once, and we haven't heard, and not just because it's us, but that's what it was going to be the chairman and vice chairman. We've heard no more. We've heard more tonight, or at least I have, than what we did out of that meeting.
All right. I mean, and you came in and we sat down with staff, and I said, listen, if we want to start working together, we have to start working together and trust each other. The very next meeting, you brought in a rule change saying that I'm holding things up and we need a 7-day rule, right? The very next meeting after we talked. So I didn't break that trust, and I'm willing to start that up again, right? But it's hard for me to do my job when that's called out, and I'm not trying to be emotional on it, and I want to be upfront with you, and I want to have you into the process. But, I mean, it doesn't help me when I've never tried to hold up agendas. That is not my thing. I'm trying to make sure that you have the information you need. Is your agenda item report right? Is the fiscal note right? Have we had a legal evaluation on what you're about to discuss? And that's my job as a county executive, to make sure that my department heads are giving the information you're on. And it's not about what's on the agenda or not on the agenda. That is your right. And I will defend that all the way. So yeah, I mean, and I'll reach out, and I'd like to get those meetings back, and because I think it's important. I think it's really important that we're on the same page. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm not perfect, but we always seem to forgive each other and move on. So I apologize if that I've offended you, and I'll.
You didn't offend me, I'm just asking the
Okay.
question. I didn't bring in the resolution. It's voted on by the whole board
I
and
know.
passed.
Yep.
So if you did that,
Yep.
if that's the way you're feeling now,
Yeah.
county executive, maybe there shouldn't be some other ones going into your office all the time.
Sure. And I appreciate the rule, by the way. It's not about the rule. I completely agree. We should have our stuff done 7 days ahead of time. It's 1:36, right? So if I called all of you and scheduled a 1-hour meeting once a month, that's 36 hours, right? And how this would work easier is if you have something you want to discuss, which many of you do, you call me and we schedule a meeting, we sit down, we work on it. I mean, that's an easier way. I mean, if you have something you want to work on, absolutely. And we've done a few of those. We've come a long way. Some of it's taken time.
First part
Isolated, it's
every
taken
month
time.
we meet usually.
Right, yep. So it's just about allocating time, and all those things that we showed you, those are all really big projects that we're just trying to make sure that we keep on task. And that is a challenge. So,
I don't see anyone else that has any questions. Do you have any? No. So,
all right, appointments?
comments on items on agenda.
Oh, okay.
Anyone have any comments or questions on any items that are on the agenda for the county executive?
I support the memorial. We were going to talk about previewing the. Oh, that's right. Yep. Sorry, Jamie, you're looking at me. Yes, so my next thing was the financial reports. Is that okay if I jump back to that?
Yes, you still have the floor.
Okay, so this is something that Paul and Jamie have been working on for a while, and Jamie kind of got her across she got her across the finish line. We're going to give you a really high-level explanation of what we're looking at, what we're going to post on the county website every month, and to invite everybody to tune in to PNF this Thursday for an in-depth discussion on where we're going as far as budget to actual. So, Jamie, you mind coming up?
Thank you again. Just really quickly, we put together some financial summaries, and we did it for all the major funds. So, like your general fund, your your human services, your highway, bless you, all of your proprietary funds. They will all have now what I refer to as a fund summary. In essence, it is an income statement, but you will have it separated by government funds versus proprietary funds. It will be your budget versus actual, where you're at year to date. Then you will see how you compare to the budget and where you should fall in line as of right now. We also put in 2023 and 2022 for comparables, so you'll be able to compare where we're at in 24 versus 23 and 22. And by fund, you will be able to see the fund balance so right now we've got as of the end of November completed. What we want to do is we're going to take it to the PNF committee, and we are going to hopefully go over that in depth and talk about those, and then we're going to start posting them on the website under the reports section as soon as the PNF lock them and approve of them, and then we will start moving forward. The one thing about fund summaries is there's a lot that goes into your comprehensive financial report at the end of the year. That's the audited big book that's got all the financials and all those things in it, which is fantastic, and it's an audited report. But been my experience that a lot of the people in the community, they're not always trained in a finance profession, and so it's a little bit more difficult to read and decipher for our community. And so if we just slap that book out there, it's not really doing what we need it to do to really inform our citizens of what the financial piece is. These fund summaries should do that. They're just what they say. They're a summary of the funds and what's happening, and you should see them on a monthly basis. So we really wanted to touch base with you to just tell you this is where we're going. And in the future, hopefully we'll just continue to approve, and then you'll have your balance sheet and your cash by fund, and you can tie all those three back together, and then you can really do some in-depth study, and you'll be able to do your own comparables just by some of those statements that we start putting out. So I just wanted to give you an overview of what's coming, and again, I think the PNF committee is February the 6th, I believe. So if you want to see more, please come out. And then if you ever, after we're done with that and they've looked at them and given me their feedback, then please come in my office and feel free. I'll walk you through them as well too. Okay? Thank y'all.
Supervisor Holt has a question.
Sure.
Thank you. So my question is twofold, and I'm going to try not to nerd out. 'Cause
Please go for it.
I like finance stuff. But, you talked about having the reports, actuals versus budget. And you mentioned also actuals versus a forecast. You used the word forecast before. So I start thinking monthly forecast, but you might have intended it to be an annual forecast of projections of what we're going to need to spend for capital or facilities. Maybe it's capital also. But I start thinking about how all these things come together, and I'm actually really excited, but I don't want to have my expectations too high for what we can do in government versus what we did in corporate finance, right? So, when you're talking about forecasting, is it specifically a monthly projection about what we expect, or is it straight line, or is it forecasting for the future?
So before I hand it over to the technical expertise, I just want to remind everybody that when we do a process like this, at least the way I see it, it's adaptable.
Okay.
So there's something that you see when you get to P&F that if there's feedback, we will take that feedback and make sure that we follow that. So nothing's ever set in stone. So there's something that you would like to see differently or maybe to highlight that, we're open to that. Another thing that we are open to, we have a training center on the 4th floor. So if enough supervisors want to come in and maybe do a workshop on how to read this, we'd be more than happy to provide that in a class type setting. So now the technical question.
The forecast, my intent is for these financial reports to lead to your 5-year forecasting plan. And so that 5-year forecasting plan will also feed into your comprehensive plan on what we can afford and how we're going to get there. And in 5 years down the road, if we follow all these plans, where we're going to end up and how we're going to achieve good results. And so that is the intent. But on these financial summaries, you will be able to see, and the more months that go on and the more that we do them, you will have 3 good years of comparables that you can compare. And then you'll be able to kind of see a monthly forecast as well, given the information that we have. Along with this information will help us do that 5-year forecast, because we look back on where we've been and then we look toward the future and see what's coming that we need to account for.
Okay, and then my second question is also technical, but it is more general. So it relates to having a glossary of terms for people who are not financial, or they want to understand it but don't necessarily want to use the wrong numbers. Do you all have a glossary from your previous experiences that you could just share with us so that we can get up to speed?
I actually do, and we are compiling the final budget book, and we're going to put that in there
Good,
so that
okay.
you can have that.
That's great, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's I just want to touch on that. In emergency management training, it's one of the things that when you have to break it down to simple terms, right? You don't have a code. If it's a dump truck, you call it a dump truck, not a 1040 or whatever the code would be. I think we have to do the same thing with government to make it, so you can understand. The government world didn't transfer directly to the pizza world, right? My business was different. Sure. I would put X amount percentage aside for those capital expenses if I need a new pizza oven someday. Can't do that in government, right? So what are some of those translations that we can go to, and what are some of the ways that we can break it down so it's easier to understand? For a lot of you that don't have an accounting background, your supervisor is the county board. We should give it to you in an information in a way that you can clearly understand it and make good decisions. Or we bury you with all this technical data and then you're not comfortable to ask a question. So we have to get into at least to an area. I'm the litmus test in the office, right? When I can understand it, it's good to go. Mary Ann, I think your comment in our management team meeting, you said, I can read this. This is great. Makes me think we're on the right track.
Good.
So thank you for that comment.
County Executive, you want to talk, give some comments on the agenda items you said?
The only one I want to talk about is the memorial being proposed in County Park. The Hmong community has been a great partner for our county parks and our county for a long time. We should be indebted to them and how much that you have helped us grow, manufacture, all kinds of things that sometimes we take for granted. And just it's an honor for that to be here to the board, and thank you to the Parks Committee for bringing that forward, and it should be a slam dunk. That's all I got on that.
Okay. Pardon? You got one? Supervisor Hanson.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I saw you gesture towards the back of the room when you were talking about the Hmong community. I personally would have no objection, with the permission of the county board chair and the county executive, if they want to speak on that just briefly, because I know it's a consent item agenda.
Me, are you comfortable with that? Yeah, come on.
That's okay if the answer is no.
Yep. Hi, if it's, can we introduce her? Or
Put them on as part of your
Yep,
talk? Okay.
sure.
I have no
It's an agenda item. Me, you want to speak to it real quick? All right. You can come right up here. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. I actually have something to prepare here, which I would like to share with you. First of all, my name is Mi Yang. I represent the Hmong Service Center as the board president. We are a nonprofit organization established in 1984 to assist Hmong refugees adapting to their new home in the Winnebago County area. The Hmong people are an ethnic group from Laos who became refugees and resettled to the United States after the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War from 1955 to 75 was not just a war between North and South Vietnam, but it was also a war that was fought in the neighboring countries like Laos and Cambodia, defending democracy in Southeast Asia. From 1961 to 1975, known as the Secret War in Laos, the United States Air Force and CIA Central Intelligence Agency recruited the Hmong to fight against communist forces of North Vietnam and Pathet Lao. The secret war involving the Hmong and the United States was considered classified and was not acknowledged or recognized until 2010. Over 35,000 Hmong soldiers died during this war. I was born during the time of the Secret War, but after the Battle of Phu Thi in 1968. Many years ago, a Hmong veteran who fought at the Battle of Phu Thi spoke at one of the Hmong festivals at the Winnebago County Park on the battle and asked me to translate on stage. I had no clue what he was talking about because the battle was all kept in secret. The Hmong veteran lived in Oshkosh, but he's no longer here today for any questions. The Battle of Phu Thi was just one of the many battles the Hmong fought during the 14-year Secret War. This battle was mainly chosen for the memorial because it was like the turning point of the Secret War for the Hmong in the United States, and probably was one that stood out the most in the hearts of those who sacrificed and survived defending that mountain. What you have with you is a draft photo on the mountain of Phu Thi showing Lima Site 85, the radar station at the highest peak of the mountain, a map of Laos indicating the location of the mountain, and 2 Hmong soldiers with a U.S. Air Force personnel. The final work of this photo will go in the front of the memorial, and the script will go in the back. Our goal is to finish this memorial and have it celebrate on August 30th of this year. This year is especially important as 2025 marks the 50th anniversary the Hmong resettled as refugees to the United States. With many of the Hmong veterans either gone or are in their 70s or 80s, the Hmong Service Center believes it is important to have a memorial at the Winnebago County Park to honor and recognize the Hmong veterans for their service and sacrifices, and to educate our children and future generations of this community. So tonight, I'm here to ask each of you for your support to help me bring this long overdue recognition for our Hmong veterans. Thank you.
Supervisor Hanson?
Mr. Chairman, for allowing that. County Executive Damo, thank you to our guest and the Parks Committee for bringing this forward.
Supervisor Hintz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say that back in, and I may be a little off on my years here, but I want to say 1978, I think I was in 3rd grade. I met my first Hmong refugee, a boy named Tung. We didn't know how to pronounce his name before he got there, and everybody thought it was going to be Thuan, looking at how it was spelled, and he got there and he said, no, Tung. Pointed at his tongue. I had a father who was in Vietnam, had very bad PTSD from being in Vietnam, and he hated the fact that I was with anybody who was from in that area. And I'd like to think that he lightened up because he saw his son getting along so well with someone from that area. And for me, the Hmong community, when I ran for city council back, it was 2009, it was right after my father had passed, I had the opportunity first time to go to their celebration that they have every year and see how big of a community that is here in Oshkosh. And in my years on the City Planning Commission, they came to us with other things that they had going on and whatnot. They're a big part of this community. Yep. And what they did over there cannot be discounted. And I can't think of anything more deserving than Memorial in our park. So thank you very much for bringing that forward.
Okay, not seeing any other lights, we'll go to your appointments.
Sure. All right. For the Industrial Development Board, I have Mr. Andrew Dane, who is the new economic developer for the city of Menasha, planner. And then Sean Fitzgerald, who is part of economic development for the Chamber of Oshkosh. And then Supervisor Stephanie Holt for the Affirmative Action Committee.
Second. Yes.
Motion made and second for the approval of the names mentioned by County Executive for their appointments. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried.
All right, thank you to the County Board, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll try to keep it going and keep it fairly quick tonight so the cars don't get too cold. First off, I want to thank you all for coming out. I know it's cold out. I had several talks with different ones yesterday about even canceling tonight already, but it was warmer tonight than it was this morning. If nothing else, you can think about it that way. So I really do appreciate that. One of the reasons is the planning and zoning. You know, they got 3 meetings a month already, and if we put it behind another, some of them people, I won't say they're going to build a house or whatever, they could be behind a whole lot already. So that was one of the reasons I really thought about putting, not just them, but that was one of it. And so I thank you very much for coming out tonight. Those that are called in to be excused: Supervisor Lutz, Gabbert, Nelson, Bureau, Buck, Gustafson, and Swan. You all should have on your desk 2025 scholarship applications to get out to the schools that you're joined with, and if you need more, let the clerk's office know them, and they can either get them printed up if you can't. So the other thing that we just found out today, thanks to our also our representative down in Madison, Nate Gustafson, the Wisconsin Counties Association is hosting a County Ambassador Day on Thursday, January 23rd, where county boards across the state can meet with our legislators to discuss our common legislative agenda. I've reserved a room. Now, this had come from Dan Gelbertson, was the county board chair from Outagamie County Board, but Nate must have worked with him. So 10:30 a.m. to noon on Thursday, January 23rd, and I invite you and or your staff members to stop by and hear about some of the topics, issue of the WCA legislative agenda and how they impact the residents of, he says, Outagamie, but also Winnebago. I'm inviting some of our county board supervisors, and we'd like to learn what your legislative priorities are as well. How can we work together? So I know it's late. If any of you can get there, though, I think it'd be great. It'd be great to have also for Nate to have some of his own representation because he hadn't heard from anybody in Winnebago County. Well, like I said, he called me this afternoon, and we got that through the clerk's office, and I believe they got it out to you. But so if you can make it, either let me know or call Nate directly, because I'm sure that he'd like to have you come. Next, next will be the commendations. We're going to do a little bit different tonight. What we'll do is we're going to go ahead and have the clerk read them all. Then I'll go to Supervisor Cox for the approval, and we'll ask for a second to have it all done at once tonight for all of them. But they'll all be read, so all the names and everything will be brought out, except they'll all be read at one time tonight. So we'll start with Resolution 077012025. Madam Clerk.
Tonight, we'd like to honor 4 retiring employees. The first one is Joan Lowe. Joan Lowe began her career in 1988 as an account clerk for the Unified Board. In 1994, she transferred to the Finance Department. In 2001, she joined the Human Resources Department as a confidential secretary. Finally, in 2023, Joan was promoted to Payroll and Benefits Specialist. During her career, she navigated employees through a variety of benefit programs and answered countless questions. She was a very dedicated employee, and her team relied upon her for expertise and knowledge. We appreciate Joan's many contributions that she provided for over 36 years and wish her well on her next adventure. Our next one is Ron Tim. Ron Tim started with the Sheriff's Office as a corrections deputy in February of 1994 and transferred to the Patrol Division in March of 1996. He was assigned to the MEG unit in March of 2011 and was promoted to detective in April of 2013. Throughout his career, he served on the tactical team and honor guard and took on many special assignments. Most notably, he was a field training officer, arson investigator, child safety seat technician, vehicle contacts instructor, and primary boat operator. Ron retired from the Sheriff's Office as a detective sergeant on December 18, 2024. The next one, is Brad Benedict. Brad Benedict began his career with Winnebago County on March 6, 1986, when he joined the Highway Department. Over his 38 years with the Highway Department, he moved up the ranks to become a foreman. His hard work, dedication, and attention to detail could be seen on any project he was leading. Brad was always available to assist with emergency calls and never missed a phone call in those early mornings to plow snow. Over his career, Brad wasn't afraid to jump into any piece of equipment and learn to operate. Brad's experience will be greatly missed by his willingness to help others learn, will help fill that void left by his retirement. With 38 years of county service, Brad retired on December 20th, 2024. We wish Brad the best in his next chapter of his life. Please join me in expressing our best wishes as he enjoys his retirement. The fourth one is Gerald Conrad. Gerald Conrad served as a citizen member of the Winnebago County Solid Waste Management Board for over 40 years. And as a citizen member of the Winnebago County Solid Waste Management Board, his wisdom and knowledge has been extremely beneficial to furthering our vision to provide continued cost-efficient solid waste management and recycling services. As a citizen member of the Winnebago County Solid Waste Management Board, his desire to fully understand waste management issues and to provide thoughtful insight has been extremely beneficial to us in enabling communications to resolve differences. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, that sincere appreciation and commendation is extended to Gerald Conrad for the fine services he has rendered to Winnebago County.
Supervisor Cox. That's Mike.
We got mice in this thing. settle down here. No. We got it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion to approve the 07701-2025. Stephanie,
We could do them all at once because she read them all at once, so we want to just do
Okay.
them all at once.
I'd like to make a second motion for 078-01-2025. Third motion, 079-01-2025. And the fourth, 080-01-2025.
Motion's been made and seconded for all the four names. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried. Next we come to the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second, Powers.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Vice Chairman Fari.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Stay warm.